What is going on, guys? It's Tazz here, and welcome back to the channel. Now today what we've got for you guys is another Flash video. Earlier this week, we finally received the long-awaited 100th episode of The Flash, which saw Barry and Nora travel back to a few key moments in The Flash's history in order to gather some materials needed to try to stop Cicada. And before I go any further, major spoiler warning for this episode. Trust me, you do not want any of this spoiled for you, but with that out of the way, let's continue. I want to start off by just congratulating the entire cast on surpassing 100 episodes. It is a crazy milestone that very few shows on TV nowadays can say that they've hit, so congratulations to everyone who has been involved throughout the last 5 seasons. This episode was an amazing way to celebrate 100 Shui episodes of this series that we all love so much. But back on track, the major conflict of this episode was not only trying to create a device that could stop Cicada, but there was also a really big Nora plot going on as well. She was able to travel back in time with her father and get a lot of insight onto some pretty crazy moments in the Flash's history that she definitely did not learn from the Flash Museum. Nora learned that Barry was, and still not is, perfect. He's made a lot of mistakes, but getting through the tough times is what really made him a hero, so I really enjoyed that part of the episode. I also enjoyed seeing past villains like Savitar, Zoom, and especially Barthon, aka the Reverse Flash. But speaking of everyone's favorite Arrowverse villain, Barry and Nora spent the most time back with the Reverse Flash getting his help to fix a component of the dagger dampener, and it was here that we learned a lot more about Nora that helped to start confirming a few things. Immediately, at least to me, we knew that Nora had some interactions with the Reverse Flash at one point or another because she was always acting weird whenever he was mentioned and whenever she was around the suit, but she was still absolutely terrified of him whenever she saw him in the flesh. And this really does tie back into how much the Reverse Flash has been referenced all throughout the season, so I thought that that was a very nice callback there. But in that time vault scene with Barry, Nora, and Thawne, we did receive one of the most tense scenes between all three of them, and it was great. Well, Sabard pretty much immediately knew that Nora was Barry's daughter, but he called her Dawn at first, which was a cool little reference towards Barry and Iris's twins in the comics Dawn and Dawn Allen, which Nora was roughly based off of. But something else that Thawne said that made me completely freak out was right after Nora corrected him, Thawne said, "Well, at least you still have one." This could be referencing to the Tornado Twins or just the fact that Barry still has one Nora left alive, so this could mean a couple of different things. Option 1 is that Nora's real name is actually Dawn and she's hiding that from everyone in order to preserve the timeline, and she may have had a twin brother named Dawn who was killed or erased from the timeline because of everything going all crazy. So that could be another reason Nora is back in the past, is to help save her sibling as well. Or the other option here is that in the timeline that this version of Thawne is from, Nora is named Dawn and does not have a sibling, but in our current timeline where the Reverse Flash has gone and killed Barry's mother, that is why she is now named Nora, hence Barry still having one Nora left in his life between his mother and his daughter. And while I do think that option 1 would be very cool to see and super comic booky to sort of play out on screen, I think option 2 is probably the most likely just because it is the simpler explanation, and that's usually what you see go on with these shows. Either way, super cool, super intense scene which carries on to when Thawne is helping fix the device, and that is where you get even more hints that yeah, there is something going on with Nora and the Reverse Flash. He knows it and she knows it and is still acting super afraid of him, which gets paid off at the end of the episode. But these couple of scenes here between Barry, Nora, and Thawne were definitely some of the best of the season and definitely the best of the episode, and will probably go down as one of the most memorable moments from the entire series. The next big part of the episode I want to briefly touch on here is when Barry and Nora are back in the time vault on the night of the particle accelerator explosion, where we get another hint towards Nora's connection to Thawne. Nora somehow doesn't know that the Reverse Flash was the one who killed Barry's mother, her grandmother, who she is obviously named after, so pretty crazy stuff, and this could be one of the reasons why Nora does actually go to the Reverse Flash in the future. It's because she doesn't really know the full history behind him and Barry. In this scene as well, we did also have a very cool Easter egg from Gideon when she was talking about Nora, saying that she's the quote 5th recruit in the rebooted Legion of, and then she kind of gets cut off there. But we know that it was the Legion of Superheroes, very cool because XS in the comics is a member of the Legion as well. Next big part of the episode, not my favorite but still pretty cool, was the fight with Cicada. I keep saying this, but I'm not really sure if I care about him that much. He's kinda cool, but, you know, just not my favorite villain. They stupidly don't breach his dagger to another Earth, but instead to space. So he was able to get away by, you know, just summoning it down, which was a very cool scene, I do have to say. The one big thing that we did figure out from this scene, other than the fact that Cicada does have a much deeper connection with the dagger than we originally thought, is that Caitlin Alan and Killer Frost could be the key to defeating him due to the fact that she is a meta that was not created by dark matter. And this does also make me think that Nora will play a pretty big part in defeating Cicada as well, because she is a natural meta that inherited her powers from Barry, and as far as I can remember, she has never actually been directly affected by Cicada's dagger either, so we shall just wait and see. But then we go on to the first part of the huge holy shrap reveal of the episode. We found out that the Speed Force language that Nora has been writing in is actually a time language that Nora claims to have created, which allows her to record events regardless of changes in the timeline, so some very cool stuff there. Now, do I think that Nora actually created this language? Possibly. She is a very smart character, but I wouldn't put it past them to have Nora lie to Sherlock just to hide the fact that she is working with the Reverse Flash. So maybe the Reverse Flash was the one who created it, or at least introduced it to Nora, so she's just saying, hey, I created this language, just to not bring up any more questions, and to hide the fact that she is in fact working with the bad guy. But before we get Nora in the Time Vault sending the notes to the Reverse Flash, we see that Sherlock has decrypted something that Nora wrote down in her journal that has come out to say the timeline is malleable, which means that the timeline could be easily influenced or changed. And certain changes may not have the major effects that you might think, like in this episode with Barry and Nora hopping all throughout the timeline. As far as we know, there are no major ramifications to the timeline from what we saw within this episode, but we will just have to wait and see. And this obviously explains why Nora is always writing things down in her journal, not only to communicate with her future contact, that being the Reverse Flash, but to also help her remember small changes to the timeline in her effort to save her father. Also, a very interesting theory I heard involving the Time Speed Force language is that the symbols on Nora's suit somehow protect her from erasing herself from the timeline when she goes around changing things, so that would be pretty interesting if that was actually the case, and a very cool explainer for the symbols on Nora's suit. Going back to Nora in the Time Vault at the end of the episode, we have her sending her time language notes to the future, and it was right then when I knew for sure that the Reverse Flash theory was correct, and the scene that came next was something I was definitely not expecting.
We need to talk.
Yes, Nora. Yes, we do.
We had Nora travel to Iron Heights in 2049 to personally deliver a message to her partner in crime, who is, drumroll please, Eobard Thawne Welsabard edition, this time with maybe a bit of gray hair, or maybe it's just a bit more blonde to look like the Matt Lesher Reverse Flash a bit more, but kind of hard to tell in the lighting. This has been a theory that a lot of people have latched onto since the beginning of the season, including myself, and everything in the episode just fell into place so nicely. It seems like the Reverse Flash has been the one who told Nora about her powers, taught her how to use them and travel through time, and told her what to do in order to change the timeline to bring back her father, while somehow still benefiting him. But what he failed to mention is that he was the one who killed Nora Allen all those years ago. So now Nora is super mad at him after that revelation, and one thing that they can kind of both agree on here is that they definitely need to talk. The only question that Eobard being around in 2049 arises is simply just that. How is he there, and what version of the Reverse Flash is he? One of the producers, Todd Helbing, did in an interview shortly after the episode come out and say that this version of Eobard that is locked up in 2049 is in fact the same one that we saw during last year's Crisis on Earth X crossover. Here is the full quote. Yeah, so he escaped from Crisis and then at some point went to the future and got put into Iron Heights. So a very simple explanation from Todd Helbing himself. I will link the full article down in the description below if you want to go check it out. There are some other questions asked. It's a very good read, so I highly suggest you guys go check it out if you want some more insight onto the Flash's 100th episode. But as I said before, everything just falls into place super nicely. This is why Nora comes back to get his help, because she knows that he's super smart and knowledgeable about time travel and believes that he can help her save Barry from the 2024 Crisis event. But we all know that the Reverse Flash always has some ulterior motives of his own. Maybe Nora saving Barry in 2024 helps Thawne avoid being thrown into Iron Heights in 2049, but who knows. Very cool to know at least a little bit about what is going on straight from the producer himself, and we will supposedly get a lot more revealed to us in episode 10 as well, so I'm super excited. Also, it is going to be very interesting to see how the Elseworlds Eobard fits in all of this too. He is in that most recent trailer, so maybe this is the one that we do see in the future as well, so I guess we will just have to wait and see what the connection is to this Elseworlds Eobard and the one that we see in 2049 that was from the Crisis on Earth X crossover from last year here as well. But anyways guys, this just gets me so excited for the rest of the season, and like I said, everything just fell into place here at the end so nicely. I feel like Nora is going to have a lot of explaining to do in order to dig herself out of this deep hole of lies that she's dug for herself. Working with the Reverse Flash, even if she was kind of tricked or manipulated into doing so, Barry, Iris, and Team Flash will definitely not be happy about this. And who knows, maybe after Cicada is defeated, just because I don't see him lasting for more than a few more episodes when we come back from the mid-season break, maybe Welzebard will break out of prison and come back fully, taking up the big bad slot for the rest of the season. I would really like to see that happen. So overall guys, amazing episode. Tom Cavanaugh, as always, does an amazing job directing, and all of the acting in this episode in general was phenomenal, so such a great way to celebrate 100 episodes of The Flash, and I just can't wait to see what happens with Nora and the Reverse Flash and everything else as we continue on with Season 5. But I want to know your thoughts on this down in the comments below. What did you think about this episode in general? Did you enjoy the reveals? And what do you think is next for the Nora and Reverse Flash storyline? I want to know your thoughts on all of this down in the comments below. But until next time guys, it's been Tazz, and I'll see you guys in the next video.